So for those of you who came in a little bit late, I'll kind of recap what I introduced to everyone before I showed Iggy's video. But I know I introduced like this pretty heavy analytical component at the end of the week last week. Iggy and I talked a little bit more about the development of the semester, and we want to go back to kind of the basics of color before we jump into the analytical component. So that's what we're doing here. And so what you just saw was using the blend tool in Illustrator, and that's a way of taking two isolated colors and finding a range of colors in between. It's basically a gradient. So this is another tool that's available to you that is extremely powerful. I don't necessarily use Photoshop or Illustrator to extrapolate color palettes too much in the office, but I use this all the time. So, you know, because I guess it could just be because our office culturally is in the practice of developing color palettes custom for every project that we do pretty much. Not all places are. In fact, many places will have like standards and stuff in place to ensure that colors are controlled properly. Why would there be standards in place? Well, it's because colors are extremely hard to manage. Most people in their architectural educations are not taught how to manage colors. Okay, so that's why we're taking a very controlled approach here. So anyway, color.adobe.com /grade/color wheel. If you just type in Adobe Color in Google, this is what comes up. And so anyway, what I want to show you here is that we're going to try to isolate our color use to a particular color range. Okay, so we want to be restrictive about how we use them. However, in case you're curious about how this works, as you start to pull these things around, you'll notice that the other colors, the other color selections will respond to it as well. So as I pull this thing around, then clearly that color palette is changing appropriately and proportionally. Okay, the proportionally is the key component here. So the saturation of the color is the length of this line, and then the actual hue of the color is what you see here. Okay, so you need to be aware that over there on the left there are different ways of grabbing color palettes. So you have analogous, monochromatic, which is a key one here. Triad, which is going to give you the complementary colors, or going to give you the triangular complementary colors, and then you're going to have your direct complementary colors, compound shades of one color, and custom. Custom basically just means you can pull these wherever you want and make a custom color palette. Okay, what are we going to use? We are going to use either shades or monochromatic. In fact, predominantly we're going to be using monochromatic. Why is that? Right? We're now moving away from what we did in the first component, which was all white. Basically everything we did was just white. Maybe some grays, but mostly just white. The second component, we started to introduce a monochromatic range, which was grayscales, with one accent color. Okay, so if you recall, I critiqued you all away from doing a secondary accent color. So now we're going to get to the point where we start to do multiple colors, but we're not going to get crazy and do multiple hues. We're going to work with one hue. Using this, you can basically just slide these back and forth and change the relationship of the different colors. And there are a number of ways that you can do that, but this will really just give you three options here. And as you kind of move through, you'll have different options available to you as well. But be aware that using this, you have a secondary setting where each of these also has a darkness associated with it. So you can change how dark the colors are too by this. And it looks like these three are the primary singular ones. Those two in the middle, it looks like, change the entire hue of the whole thing. So anyway, this is how we're going to start to develop our color palettes. And if you need them to be sort of washed out, you can just start pulling them back. Okay, and we will discuss quite a bit how to control basically the saturation of your colors as well, because in a lot of applications you want your colors not to be super saturated. Okay, any questions on Adobe Color? All right, so I'm going to stop this one real quick, and we're going to jump into a bit more of, we're going to kind of go back into the painting thing and start to learn a little bit more from the masters and start to develop some more color palettes that way.